I'm Anthony. Welcome to the channel. Today we're talking about instances and noise. Let's jump into it. All right, first let's talk about what instances are and why we should care about them. I want to take a look at an example here in the code sandbox I got from React 3 Fiber. You can see we have thousands of boxes here. They have a bit of a nice shader on them to make them stand out. And this just would not be possible if it wasn't for the instances. Because when you do this, it's only going to calculate the geometry once, or at least fewer times than if you didn't use instances, and then it knows how to use them from then on. Next, it's probably a good idea to talk about why I've messed with instances at all. And I know that I want to do instances for the Synth City procedural generation project, where you've got cars that you're going to want to have instances of, you've got buildings. The better performance that we can get per model, the more that we can generate, and the further into the horizon we can go with some different models, repeating and populating. So I'm going to try to get that city density look, maybe go a little further in the horizon without having to have so much fog. And I'm going to need instances in order to do that. One of the first things I did is I came to the Dre website. If you're not familiar with Dre, you need to be familiar with Dre if you're doing React 3 Fiber stuff. Tons and tons of helper tools here. And for our purposes today, there's several here that are for instances. And these are pretty helpful. I just was stubborn and needed to fully understand how instances worked, and so I ended up coming up with my own little helper library. But these things are cool, right? They help you do instances with less programming knowledge and just throwing throwing stuff at them, including one where if you have several repeating meshes, you can set it up so that they all end up being instances. What I did is threw together a helper library. So it's on Gist. If you're not familiar with Gist, you can put little snippets of code there. And this helper library is going to help you do all of the different things in order to position lots of instances of an object in 3D space with rotations and scale and all kinds of other stuff. And then you'll see in the comments of the code, I show how to also use it. So I've got an example in there for you to be able to copy and paste into in your React 3 Fiber project. Let's run through what some of these settings are real quick. I know this is a mess. This has been my playground, but on that note, here's a quick thing that I found. The Next.js loading of GLBs and GLTF has just been a giant pain in the butt with the server-side rendering. If you have tips on how to get past that, besides having to wrap it in a component, I'm very interested to know how you got past it. For the Web3D repo, I still use Next.js so that it can have an API and do some processing. But for really working with the procedural generation stuff, and I wanted some flexibility, and I kept running into model loading issues, I just switched back to Vite. It was really quick to go back to, and I'm interested to know if you guys got past some of the Next.js issues. Also, I know that in the React 3 Fiber kind of ecosystem, there is a Next.js project there. I haven't tried it out yet, though. A quick implementation of my helper library. So the helper library you can see is used here where it says get instance matrix. So anywhere you see the get instance matrix, that's the helper library. I use it twice. I use it once just to initialize everything. And then I use it again to animate per frame. Now keep in mind, if we're drawing this every frame when we're doing this, this has to be pretty high performance. So I was getting 60 frames per second with 7 million triangles. I think that's pretty darn good, considering I had some bloom and other post-processing and some lights in there. I want to explain some of these real quick. In my exploration, something I found was that I want to have more than one noise map. Noise is really good. I explained it in the video about Synth City, where noise allows you to do something that has more of a pattern than random. and also lets it be reproducible if you can set the seed to be consistent. And you can kind of play around with seed to find one that maps exactly what you want, but you can, if you keep that seed, then it's going to have some consistency for you. But more than just one noise thing, I wanted to use noise to do things like rotate. I've done ones down here that I played around with where I use noise plus the frame, run it through a sine, run it through log. I can set it at different positions within the get noise, set that to rotation. There's all kinds of things that I've done with the noise at this point. But one thing that I discovered is I only really ever need 2 noise maps for pretty much anything I want to do that looks pseudo-random but has some cool patterns. I need one that's usually for if the instance actually exists, and then I need another one that's kind of this alternate. And the alternate allows me to do things like rotation, scale. You can set things like frequency. There's just lots of creative ways to use that second noise. I originally wanted to do more noise maps for different things so that things didn't have like this too obvious of a pattern. But I figured out that even with the 2 noise things, I can get many more values. So I don't have to generate noise maps and get their positions too much. I can just find the min, the max, the average, all kinds of generic math terms between those 2 values to generate other values, and those are also going to be predictable. So I found 2 noise maps is all I need. After that, I just get creative with how I use them. So talking through some of these other features here, frequency is going to take whatever pattern it is, and we'll talk about the patterns in a second. It takes whatever pattern there is, and it says how dense that's happened within the space that you're in. The lower the frequency that you have, the more it's going to smooth out and be less of a drastic effect. The noise type, this is going to be your pattern. Anytime you see in the video it says Voronoi, that's the cellular. I found Voronoi was really cool to do things that will probably apply well to a SimCity inspired, almost in a grid that can be for buildings, and then the ridges will be for roads, and it sets it up really well. And you can play with some different values within fast noise light to see what else is going to work there. So here we're fast noise light. If I go over here to cellular, you can see already that would actually be pretty cool city grid. Maybe we want it less, more like this is probably, that's pretty cool, right? If I took these ridges to be the roads, I think we would have an interesting city grid. However, we can play around with some of these other ones. I believe Manhattan was a cool one. And you can see we can get almost completely to squares. But then if we get to just squares, but or some big polygons and dark areas in between, now you've got your natural low spaces for a park, a water feature, roads in between buildings, and some big city blocks that are kind of interesting to look at. So beyond the noise type, we've got the seed. And when I change the seed, it's going to change where you are within the map. So let's say you've got this map, it's got a set frequency, and the seed, I think it's the best way to explain it. It's literally, if you see a cool feature over there and you're like, well, why isn't this over here? Play with the seed and you'll see it kind of generates not just where in the map you would be, but kind of the arrangement of certain features within it. And you can play around with the seed until you find something that starts out with what you want. Because if the first few frames aren't what you're going to want to see, then you should probably play with a different seed and start out strong. Then we can pass those into the values for the instance matrix. The first one that we're going to do is going to be pretty simple. And we've got the position, we've got our radius, and we've got spacing. So the position is literally the Cartesian coordinate system for where you're going to start. You want to go around that position, so this allows you to have a camera and follow that camera for your position. And then the spacing, so are the tiles that you're going to search for be right next to each other, or are they going to have a space between them? And I think this is largely going to depend on the scale of your models that you're bringing in. If they're all scale 1 and you intend for them to be next to each other, then a scale of 1 or spacing of 1 might work out great. Min noise and max noise is just as you see the values, with the peaks and valleys, you're saying any instances to generate. Let's say for this one model that you're giving it, you only want instances to generate from 0 to 1. That means it will never go below the 0 plane. You can always do the opposite as well. And then you can stack these and have multiple objects that have this instance matrix. So you can have things mapped to certain min, max noise and other things to others, and they can share the noise map. That way they'll be coordinated. There's not too much more to the helper. I mean, have fun. This is going to be interesting to see if anybody comes up with something else. I did the fun little drone model to make sure I wasn't just playing with boxes. I enjoyed it. I liked setting up the bloom and everything. I think that's a separate subject. I made it more complicated than it was. It was pretty simple. I want to thank this guy, Sean. He's been great to work with online. His portfolio online continues to develop and look pretty cool. And I'd encourage you to go check it out. Got some pretty neat projects out there, and his portfolio is one of them. He helped me understand some of the stuff that I was struggling with. I was really just overthinking it, and he was just awesome dude to give me some working examples on stuff that I was just mentally blocked on. If you are blocked on something, please feel free to come on Discord and ask some questions. That's what we're here for. Enjoy helping people out. I've helped out a lot of people since I started doing these videos. And keep a lookout for more, because this helper object for the instances is just the beginning. I got to the end of this, I played around with it, and then I figured out, I want to do something with multiple instances, and I want it to be crazier and just do a ton more that I can't do with just one instance and have to stack instances of instances. So I'm definitely going further with this, but I wanted to make sure that I got this video out and let people play with this single model version before I kind of go off on the deep end. Might get lost for a little bit and have something that's not working. So thanks for joining, and I'll see you in the next video.